consciously choose to rejoice and be glad in it. It is a gift from God. Whatever we conceive our God to be, whatever name we put on our higher power, remembering that which is within us is greater than that which resides in the world. So on this glorious day of looking at sacred agreements and our topic, gratitude as a superpower. And I love what Dr. Clayton read from the Science of Mind textbook by Dr. Ernest Holmes. In all things, give thanks. In all things. And then Reverend Perry shared about when things are going great, we celebrate. And when they're not going so great, we grow. We have a choice. And as we're growing and expanding, we grow past that energy that does not serve us, but did get our attention through the experience. And it's really fascinating how that works when life gets our attention. And Dr. Ernest Holmes stated that we learn our lessons through one or two ways. The first is through intuition, where we are, one with the universe and we're allowing these energies to flow through us. Or we learn through bitter experience. And he said, and most of the time it is the latter. In other words, through bitter experience. And we are in this way of life to become enlightened, so that we can listen to the still small voice of God and what it is saying in us, be still and know that I am God. That each and every one of us is a co-creator with our higher power. No matter what name we put on it, no matter how we call it, it is right where we are and no place where it is not. And so on this day, that we're here together, not by chance, but we are here by divine appointment. And through this divine appointment, we are listening to that still small voice of God. And recognizing that it gets our attention in very subtle ways. And when we are not listening, the subtlety of the universe gets a little stronger, and a little stronger, and a little stronger. So that finally, it seems that something has to come. We were hit in the head with the 2x4 to get our attention. Let's learn our lessons through intuition. Let's listen to what the universe is saying to us in very subtle ways. Let's learn to trust our intuition and realize it is the voice of God. And I had one of my students say many years ago, well, how do I know if it's my intuition? And I said, if you have to ask, it isn't. When we know that we know that we know, and we feel that energy, it's this divine download. Not even the gates of hell shall prevail against us, because we know that we know that we know. So as we look at gratitude as a superpower today, and giving thanks for all the great and wonderful things in our lives, and all the other things that show up, because really, remember, there are blessings in disguise. And sometimes they're very disguised. We gotta look, really, really deeply to get that blessing. And to recognize it. Pierre Cardin, who wrote The Gentle Art of Blessing, a beautiful book I've had for years, stated that he lived in Switzerland. He was part of a non-profit organization, and he was a teacher. And he said that he was put in this position of accepting this new position where he would have to compromise his ethics. And he said he could not do that. And so he resigned. And what he discovered after that, later on, is that these powers that be were counting and banking on him resigning so they could get their agenda in place. And unfortunately, these kinds of things do go on in the world. And he said he woke up every day thinking about it. He said, I got up and I would get in the shower and I'd be thinking about them. I had so much anger and resentment toward them. And I would go out into the new day thinking about them. And it consumed me. It became an obsession. And one day I was thumbing through the Bible and it said, Matthew, bless and curse not. Now, when we bless things, they increase. When we curse things, they increase. He said it was such a revelation for him that bless those that use you, say all manner of evil against you for his name's sake, for a higher purpose. And he began, not feeling it, but began blessing them. Every single one of them, where it consumed him, suddenly he released that energy. And the more he began his blessing, and he would go out jogging, where prior he'd think of all of the things they did that were so unjust. He released that injustice. He released those feelings. He began blessing those that cursed him. He began seeing them happy. He began seeing them whole and complete. And he said, suddenly, all of these opportunities arose for him. And that he was no longer consumed with the anger and resentment and absolute injustice of what happened to him, and stepped into an even greater position that life had for him. And one of the things I have always said, that whenever I have felt the rug pulled out from under me, I have always landed on higher ground. And when we get that the universe has our back, and no matter what we are going through at any given moment, this too shall pass, but my word, my love, my truth, it will never pass away. It is an eternal verity of life that is always there. It is the changeless reality of life. It is always there. And that when we go within and we feel that power and that presence, and that we are guided and directed, and realizing that our daily life is what? Our temple and our religion. You know, it's not just our spirituality, it goes before us and prepares the way. Our daily life is our religion, where we acknowledge everything, and there's a sacredness to everything. And when we get it, that life is sacred, and that we have the opportunity to serve a higher purpose in just the most mundane things. Brother Lawrence used to look out his window. This is like in the 5th century. He was a monk. And he said he would be washing the dishes in the scullery. And one day he looked out, and it was snowflakes. And all of a sudden there was this amazing light as he was washing dishes in the scullery and doing the mundane chores, that suddenly all was illumined. And through this illumination was a revelation of light, that there was only oneness. And that didn't matter what we do, that as long as we recognize that we do it with love. And when we do it with love, it perpetuates that energy, so that everyone and anyone who comes within that energy field is healed and uplifted in our presence. And that when we have been hurt and feel very disappointed, and it begins to consume us, bless and curse not. Bless it, acknowledge it, learn from it, grow from it. Was it fun? Not particularly. But as we bless it, as we allow ourselves, realizing this is what we're called to do in order to grow and unfold and to be all that we can be. And I had an experience this week where I leased my home for 2 years, because I wanted to see how I liked living up in Desert Hot Springs and in a modular home, and with the minerals, which I absolutely love. But I took out a 2-year lease. And there were some things that occurred that, you know, I could say this needs to be fixed or that needs to be fixed. And when you're the owner, this is what you do. And my husband and I, we're landlords. It's not a whole lot of fun to be a landlord. We recognize that, but you do fix the things that need to be fixed. And so there was something that was happening, and there was the microwave and the refrigerator were connected. So every time I turned on the microwave, it blew the breaker. So the refrigerator went off. I didn't always notice that, so that was always interesting. So then I put it to the housing manager that this needed to be fixed. And he came back and he said that he's not going to fix it. And you can hire a reputable electrician to fix it, which has to be approved by the housing manager. And he did add that, and if she doesn't like, you know, moving the breakers and flipping the switches, she can move out. And so I was kind of stunned, because I felt that it was a reasonable question and when you're leasing something. And I said, very interesting reaction. And I just went within, and I just started sending out love and peace. And then I decided that since it's Thanksgiving, I'm going to send a big basket of fruit. It had chocolates and cookies. You know, you can do that through Amazon. And I sent this basket of, and said, with warmest Thanksgiving wishes. And thank you very much for your generosity in the time I've lived here. I absolutely love it, which I do. I look out on the hills, the mountains, and the prairie. This is my front yard. And all of the doves and the quail and the squirrels, and everybody comes in my yard. And they're wonderful. And so, you know, I was first stunned. And I want you to know that when we look at our daily life as our temple and our religion, that I stand up here so you can see me. And that we're all human beings that have feet of clay. And that we're all growing and expanding. And that when I have my own personal experiences, it's a universal thing for all of us. We all go through various, you know, not exactly the exact same experiences, but the kind of energy where you're kind of stunned for a moment, you get to regather your resources within you, and then make a shift. And when someone is feeling good about themselves, and feeling that all's well in the world, there is usually a loving response, or there is a cordial response. When people have things going on with them, you're not the target. You're in the firing range, right? And sometimes it's not fun to be in the firing range, but we have to use compassion. And if we're spiritual people, and we're spiritual beings, and we absolutely embrace this way of life, then we make that adjustment. If we have the awareness, we make the adjustment. And just as Pierre Pradavant was feeling absolutely consumed with resentment about, leaving a position that he loved, and had to heal himself of that, and we need to heal ourselves every day, every time something bubbles up. I feel that things bubble up so they can be healed, so that we can address them, that we can acknowledge if we're going to have gratitude as a superpower, that each and every one of us is connected to that superpower, and that superpower is God, whatever we conceive our God to be, whatever name we put on our higher power. But to acknowledge it is our ground of being in which we live and move and have our being. And when we understand that, there is such an opening for us, such a beautiful opening. And people, places, and things at a higher vibratory frequency come into our lives. And they touch us in such a miraculous way. And that we can feel that oneness. And as we feel that oneness, it moves beyond color, race, creed, sexual orientation, and political affiliation, I did add. We are all one. And when we feel that oneness, then when these things come up that stun us or we're kind of shocked by it, we can draw the larger circle. He drew a circle that shut me out. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. We drew the larger circle to include whatever was going on. And when we acknowledge that, something begins to unfold. Last year at this time, I had just moved. And I was selling things from my Palm Springs home. And we had a very, very interesting occurrence where someone was buying a china cabinet from me. And I had to call on Julian because she was an hour early and brought, it was a huge china cabinet. And I remember sharing with you that it was all leaded glass. And she brought a trailer that was like about 4 feet. And this thing said, Julian took the whole thing apart, took out the leaded glass, did everything, was there for like 2 hours. I told him it would be 15 minutes just to let him in the house, let him get it. Not expecting that they would bring something inappropriate. He went over and above, gave him ropes to, they didn't have any blankets or anything to preserve it. And then they went off to Riverside without putting blankets between it, and all of the leaded glass broke. So she wrote back to me on Messenger and said, I bad luck. And she had very broken English. I bad luck. And I wrote back to her and just said, I'm so sorry that this happened. I'm just going to send you a lot of good energy and just know from this point on, things can only get better. And she said she threw the whole thing away. And it was a beautiful china cabinet, just gorgeous. And so I thought, to myself when she said, I bad luck, that when we create these self-fulfilling prophecies and we say, I bad luck to the universe says, yes, you are really bad news. But when we shift it and say, I had an experience, it wasn't fun, I had an experience. And from this point, it can only get better. The universe said, yes, it can. Because the universe, what? Always says yes. So if we're putting it out there, that life is good, that there is an energy that is for us, that we are happy, healthy, prosperous, and free, the universe says, yes, you are. And if we put it out to the universe that I bad luck, the universe says, yes, you are. So we make the shift and acknowledge that if we're going to tap in to this superpower, this gratitude that we are feeling, and even when we are not feeling it, to open to it so that it melts the energies that no longer serve us and return them to their native nothingness from whence they came. We're here to grow and to expand, and we're here to have laughter and joy. Remember, joy is the most infallible sign of the presence of God. We're here to experience life, to feel the energies of the laughter, the tears, the humanity that is within us, and to relate on that level. And that when someone says, well, she can flip breakers all day long or move out, that we can neutralize that energy. And as Joseph said, out of evil cometh good. That we can send something on, which I was going to do anyway, but it was a little more challenging after hearing the message. But if we take things personally, we are going to be so bogged down with energy that doesn't serve us. But if we just acknowledge it, bless it, and let it go and tap in to this gratitude, it what? It transcends to grace. It transcends to that grace where each and every one of us is accepted, we are loved, we are embraced by the universe, by God, and each other. So today, we are tapping in to gratitude as a superpower, and I challenge each of us this week, every single day, to really give thanks for just one thing. I usually do 3 things, and sometimes a lot more. But just one thing that we can be grateful for every day. And as we embody that gratitude, it expands, and the miracles just come in, pressed down, shaken together, flowing over into every area of our life. Because we are recognizing that we are deeply and absolutely one, feeling that energy of God consciousness and allowing it to download through this vehicle that we brought in, being who we are. So today I want you to know we good luck, each and every one of us. We good luck. And we're going to tap into that good luck. And of course someone said that he was the luckiest man in the world, and that luck and hard work had a lot to do with it. But when we see ourselves as everything I touch, there is the miraculous, the mystical, and the magical that go before us and prepare the way as we become the lamp unto our own feet, drawing others into our energy field, because we're all going somewhere. And where is that? Higher yet. Where? Higher yet. Where? Higher yet. Because we are in a high place and we will not come down. None of these things, these outer things that show up, move us, because we are in a high place and we will not come down. I say to you, Namaste, the God in me salutes the God in you, and the God in you salutes the God in me. And if I am in that place in me, and you are in that place in you, there truly is only one of us. And I say shalom, the peace that passes all understanding. And God bless us